Okay, sorry about that. We're back. So according to Reb Shimon, Rebbe taught the Mishnah there's two cases. So the third case that Levi's asking is a clear omission. That's why Reb Shimon's like, isn't it obvious from a Mishnah? You only taught me two cases where they argue. The third case, you didn't teach me. So obviously it's an omission. But according to Levi was taught only one case. And here's the question. So Levi was taught Levi was taught one case. Lididei de lo asni elachada. Levi was taught one case. We'll see which case it was. However, he heard his colleagues l'Rabbanan de kagarsi tarti. So it's a funny thing. Levi was walking around that he only heard one case in the Mishnah. We'll see which one in a second. But he heard his colleagues, when they said over the Mishnah, they kept mentioning two cases. Olive, and olive and olive. Right? Those are the two cases. So now, in Levi's head, the Savar, which one is it? Didi Dafka, is my case the proper case? Viditu Iruv Machshavos Have. And really, their second case is not where there is a machlokas. Really, my version is right. Their version is only the second case they keep talking about. Olive and olive is really called Iruv Machshavos. It's really one statement, and there's no dispute. That was one way of reasoning that Levi had. Oh, he reasoned like this. Maybe really there's actually two cases taught in the Mishnah. When Rebbe taught it to me, he left out one of the cases. Just like he left out one of the cases to me, he left out one of the cases when he taught them too. Which case did he leave out? The case that I asked Rebbe. So now, Odilma did Hudafka, their case is the proper case. Olive, and olive. Why did he only teach me one case? It must be he left out a case, maybe to sharpen me, maybe to get me chap my own. Uladidi shiure shirely. But to me, he left it out. Ooh, now, when he taught it to me and he left it out, he left out a case for them also. Okay. And if he left out a case for them, it would be my question. When you have in mind, tomorrow outside the right place, or outside the right place tomorrow. So, and that would still be a machlokas. Even when you say I'm going to have all of his worth tomorrow outside the right place, or outside the right place tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow outside the right place. Is that one statement or two statements? So if my version is correct, so then I have no answer to this question. If their version is correct, and Rebbe taught me only one case to leave out a second case, so when he taught them, he probably also left out a third case. So if that's true, that would be my question, and that would be a machlokas Rabbi Dovid Gleizer. So now, which case did he teach Rebbe? So we should have to figure out by process of elimination. Vehei asni. So remember, Levi had a question. He only taught me one case. Either that case is the only case, or he left out a case. So which case did he teach me? Vehei asni ilema kizayis vikizayis asni. If he taught me the case of an olive's worth tomorrow and an olive's worth outside the right place, and even that's a machlokas, so ha'ilav shirahu, then what did he leave out? Meaning the two options were olive, or olive and olive. So this is the bigger novelty, that when you combine the two olives with a vav, it's like one statement, and Rabbi Yehuda still divides it up. So if he would taught me that case, what's he leaving out? Ella kizayis asni. He obviously taught me the case of olive. And which case did he leave out? Olive and olive. That case, that's also machlokas Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim. Therefore, he taught the rabbis both of the cases, and probably also left out a third case. Now, if this is true, that Levi was only taught olive, and not olive and olive, so when Levi came to ask his Rebbe a question, why did he choose the third case of an olive tomorrow outside the right place? Why not ask this question? V'tibayla kizayis v'kizayis. Remember, there's three cases: olive, olive. That Levi was taught. Olive and olive, Levi was not taught. Only the rabbis were taught. Eating an olive tomorrow outside the right place, that's Levi's question, which he assumes when the Rebbe taught the rabbis, he left out. So this case was omitted from when Levi was in class. So why didn't he ask that? So Levi had the following very smart thought process. He thought like this, suffer like this. I'm going to ask him one question and learn two things from one question. I'm going to ask him a good question. I'm going to learn two things from there. So if I would have asked him the Ibaina Kazayis V'Kazayis, if I would have asked him about an olive and an olive, so then what would have happened? The following. Let's say I would have asked Rabbi, what's the halacha in the case of an olive tomorrow and an olive outside the right place? So now, it would have been good for me, if you would have told me that this is really one statement, so then I could derive from there that if that's one statement, for sure, kol shekain kizayis l'machar b'chutz is also one statement. If case number 2 is one statement, for sure case number 3 is one statement of an olive tomorrow outside the right place, for sure. But let's say Rebbe would have answered me that an olive and an olive is actually two separate statements. I would still never know what would be in the third case, right? So an olive tomorrow and an olive outside the right place. I amarli prata, if Rebbe would have told me it's actually two distinct statements, and Rabbi Yehuda argues there, I would still have a question. What would be if I say an olive is worth tomorrow outside the right place? Is that one statement or two statements? I don't know. So akasi kizayis l'machar b'chutz k'mibayli. I still would have that question. That's why I didn't ask about case 2. I asked about case 3. Says the Gemara, but hold on. Even though you asked about case 3, you're not out of the, there's still going to be a problem. Why? Ihachi hashanami. You're going to have the same problem now. Why? So hatenach amarle kizayis l'machar b'chutz prata. Let's say the case of an olive's worth tomorrow outside the right place. Rebbe tells me is a prata, is two distinct statements, and Rabbi Yehuda argues there. So if he would tell me that, that'd be great, because then I'll know kol shekain that kizayis v'kizayis is for sure two statements. If case 3 is two statements, then case 2 is for sure two statements. But let's say Rebbe tells me case 3 is actually one statement. It's only one statement. So I still don't know what's with case 2. I don't know what's with case 2. So that's our question. How did you solve your problem by asking about case number 3? You have the same problem you had in case number 2. So says Rabbi, no. Im kain mirtach ratach. So Levi thought like this, that if Rabbi would have told me that this case is actually two distinct statements, so I would for sure know case 2. Fine. And if he tells me it's actually one statement, but he tells it to me softly and not angrily, so then I'll learn from there that this is really one statement, but an olive's worth and an olive's worth is going to be two statements. Because if it goes the other way, that an olive and an olive's worth is one statement, so Rabbi should have got upset at me. Why? Because Rabbi only taught me one case: olive tomorrow and olive, olive tomorrow, olive outside of the right place. That's all he taught me. Now, if the case of olive and an olive would be one statement, he should have got upset at me and told me that you should be able to derive from what I taught you, of what I didn't teach you. I only taught you olive tomorrow, olive outside the right place. is two separate statements, but olive and an olive is only one statement. So if Rebbe would respond angrily to me, I would know that that olive and an olive is going to be one statement. So basically, Levi asked about case 3, an olive tomorrow outside. Now he was only taught one case: olive tomorrow, olive outside. Case 2, olive tomorrow and olive outside, he wasn't taught. So he asked on case 3, and he either way he's good. Why? If he tells me it's really two statements, case 3, for sure case 2 is two statements. Great, that's easy. And if he responds calmly to me that it's a general statement, it's actually one statement, so then that's also going to be good. Because the other way he would have responded is angrily, because I should have learned from the fact that he only taught me case 1 that that's two statements, but case 2 is for sure one statement. So it depends how he responds to me. I'll be able to figure out the Mishnah. So if he responds calmly to me, so then I'll know that case 2 is also case 2 will be two statements. If he responds angrily, I'll know that case 2 is one statement. So depends how he responds, I'll be able to figure it out. It's easier if we have a chart, I guess. So yeah. So that's why hashta kazayis klala. So he'll get upset at me. Mirtach ratach. Why is he upset at me? Hashta kazayis klala. Kazayis l'machar b'chutz mibayi. He only taught me one case: an olive out of the right place, an olive outside the right time. What's with case 2, an olive and an olive? So if it would be one statement, which I should have been able to figure out from the fact that he omitted it and didn't teach me that that's two statements, I should have figured out it's one statement. So Rebbe would have yelled at me and said, "What are you asking me? An olive and an olive is one statement. For sure, an olive tomorrow outside is for sure one statement." Oh, from the fact that he didn't get angry at me, I understand that an olive and an olive is actually two statements and not one statement. So I asked one question, but I now got two answers. I got both answers. And our question earlier is answered. What was the version taught in the Mishnah? Both cases: an olive today, tomorrow, and olive tomorrow, an olive outside the right place, and an olive tomorrow and an olive outside the right place are both sentences that could be divided up into two parts. Rabbi Yehuda holds we divide them up, and the first one takes priority, and the rabbis hold it's all one statement. So at the end of the day, it's two. Second. Yeah. So we taught the case that kizayis v'kizayistan. The Mishnah's case is a kizayis and a kizayis, and even that which has the vav is actually two statements according to Rabbi Yehuda, and one statement according to the Rabbanon. Okay. Yeah. See, every word is, yeah. So, okay. Now, much lighter, a bunch of questions, and let's see. Itmar. So, chatzi zayis chutz l'zmano, chatzi zayis chutz l'mkomo, v'chatzi zayis chutz l'zmano. Okay. Half a kazayis outside the right time, half a kazayis outside the right place, half a kazayis outside the right time. So you need to have a full kazayis outside the right time to get your kares. Can 1 and 3 combine or no? That's the question. So Amarava, vayikat kiyoshin apigel. The sleeping pigel wakes up, meaning the half a kazayis of pigel in the beginning, which can't get you kares, is now going to combine with the third statement. Half a kazayis outside the right time, half a kazayis outside the right place, no kares. Half a kazayis outside the right time, so they're going to combine together, and now you have one kazayis outside the right time that will get kares. The Rav Hamnuna says no. Amar Eruv Machshavas Haveh. He argues and says Eruv Machshavas Haveh. It's one statement, and it's you have Remember, when you have two invalidations, then you won't get kares. So here you have a kazayas outside the right time, but you also have half a kazayas outside the right place. So we don't say, let the kazayas of time come and get you kares. Rather, it's one full statement. And since there's another invalidation, then you won't get kares. So a machlokas about this case, Rava and Rav Hamnuna. So now, Amar Rava, what's my source that you can combine? The Tanan, Kibetza. Okay, so here comes Tuma. Kibetza ochel rishon, u kibetza ochel sheni. So you have an egg's worth of a rishon the Tuma. We know that Tuma is, there's the Ava Tuma, the highest level, or right, and then that makes something into a rishon the Tuma, which can transmit to many things. If it touches something, it makes into a sheni latoma, second degree, and that can make a shlishi latoma, a third degree. So the Mishnah said, if you have kibetza ochel rishon u kibetza ochel sheni, shebalan zebazeh, you have a rishon latoma and a sheni latoma mixed together. The halacha is it's considered a rishon latoma. If you have a first degree and a second degree impurity mixed together, it has a status of a first degree. What if you divide them up now? Chilkon. So, zeh sheni v'zeh sheni. They're both sheni latoma. What if you put it back together? Ha chazer ve'irvan. Rishon have. You put it back, it goes back to its original state of being a rishon latoma. So what do you see? Something which was a primary category of tuma, first degree tuma, when you split it up, there now you view each one as a second degree tuma. But when you put it back together, it comes back to life. It's now a first degree tuma. So too here, you have pigel, half a kazayas outside the right time, then outside the right place, then outside the right time, they can combine and join together. Yeah. So says the Gemara, Mimai. So how do I know this to be true? Yeah. Mimai midikatani seva. Look at the end of the Mishnah. Nafal ze ba'atzmo v'ze ba'atzmo al kikar shel truma. If each one of these two eggs worth of, I don't know, let's call it foods, one is a first degree tuma, one's a second degree tuma, they get mixed together and then split apart. Each of them individually falls on a piece of truma. So if a second degree tuma falls on a piece of truma, it's called puzzle. It invalidates it. Meaning the truma is invalid, but it cannot transmit tuma. The truma cannot transmit tuma. It's only invalid. A second degree cannot make truma so strong, so impure, that now it can transmit also. It can't do it, but it can invalidate it. However, naflu shneim ka'achas, let's say you put them back together, and it's one big food now, one big mush, and now that falls on the truma, asahu shniya. You now made the truma into a second degree. So what do you see? That when you have two things, first degree tuma and second degree tuma, when they're mixed together, they're a first degree tuma. When they're split apart, they're a second degree tuma. When they're put back together, they're a first degree tuma. So you see the concept of something which is a second degree tuma, but when it can be brought back to life when you recombine it. So too by pigel, the half an olive's worth is not enough to get you kares. And now you have half an olive's worth outside the right place, which should prevent the kares. But once you have another half an olive's worth outside the right time, they'll combine together for kares, and you don't look at the other invalidation. That yeah, what to do today? Yeah. So what to do today? Yeah, this is. I remember vividly, afternoon, my first year in the mirror, I had a great rabbi in the afternoon. I'd always ask him questions. He'd tell me to just go review it 4 more times. You'll see. You don't actually have a question. So a lot of this is just when you see it again, yeah. It's not the words aren't complicated. Just so many details in the head. But when it's charted out or whatever, it's easier. Okay, so that's all Rav Hamnuna, who argues on the pigel that can come back to life. What's he going to say? Hasam Ika Gary, we're on 31a, about 12 to 13 lines down. Rav Hamnuna Hasam ikashura. It's not fair. By the impurity, you started off with an amount that can cause impurity in eggs worth. By pigul, you're starting off with half a kazayas. Half a kazayas can't get you kares. So the fact that by tuma you showed me things come back to life, that's only because you always had the requisite amount. But by pigul, when you start with half an olive's worth, and you want to tell me that combines with another half olive's worth, that's too much of a novelty. I don't agree to that. Rav Hamnuna hasamika shura hachaleka shura. Okay. Now, where is Rav Hamnuna going to prove his point from? Rav Hamnuna mina minala. What's my source? The Tanan haochel shenitma ba'avatuma, food that gets contaminated by a avatuma. Vishenitma bivlad hatuma. Vlad means literally a fetus. It's just another way of saying a derivation of tuma. It means a second degree of tuma. So food that got contaminated by an avatuma, by the father of tuma, meaning now it's a first degree tuma, and then it gets impure by a second degree tuma, mitztarfen ze im ze litame bekal shebeshneim. They can combine together the two tumas, first degree and second degree, to cause impurity on the lower level. So it'll, whatever a second degree tuma can transfer, that's what this will transfer. Fine. Says Rav Hamnuna, Ma'i lav afal gav de hadar malia. What do you see? It only combines for the lower degree of tuma. And is it not talking about a case where is it not talking about a case where I think it's only the first the cases where the two sounds like you don't have the requisite amount, so it only got contaminated by, let's say, a small amount of first degree tuma and only a small amount of second degree tuma. Now they combine together, but only for the lower amount. So that's like our pigul case, where you have two things combining, but they only, since they don't, it's also talking about a case where you don't have either one giving you the requisite amount of impurity. So they're not going to combine for a first degree tuma, rather they'll combine for a second degree tuma. So I see that when you don't have the requisite amount, I can't combine to a first degree tuma. If that's true, that's like our case of pigul. They don't combine. Says Gemara, no, it's not a proof. Dilma, dilo hadar malia. Maybe it's talking about a case where you never actually reached the requisite amount at all, and that's why it doesn't get you a rishon l'tuma. Yeah, okay, I think I missed one detail. Rav Hamnuna said, is it not talking about a case where now you have, let's say you have now an egg's worth, half an egg of rishon, half an egg of sheni, first, and now you added another half an amount. So let's say you have, I don't know, whatever it is, you have a half an egg's worth of first degree tuma, half an egg's worth of second degree tuma combined together. And now you added another half an egg's worth of first degree tuma. Rav Hamnuna said, aren't we talking about that case where you added on and now you have the requisite amount of first degree tuma and still it only contaminates according to the lowest degree? To the lowest degree of tuma? Says the Gemara, no, it's not talking about that case. Therefore, so Rav Hamnuna said it was very parallel to our case. You have first degree tuma, only half an egg. Second degree tuma, only half an egg. But now you added on another half an egg of first degree tuma, and it still does not combine to be at a level of first degree tuma. It only goes to a second degree. So that was just like our case of pigul. Half an olive's worth, and then half an olive's worth don't combine. So to that we say, no, you don't have a proof. Maybe it's not talking about that case. It's not talking about a case where they combine, and therefore you don't have a proof. Okay. Ki Aser, when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, he said the following, Amar. Chetzi kezayis chutz l'mkomo, half an olive's worth outside the right place. The chetzi zayis chutz l'zmano, and half an olive's worth outside the right time. The chetzi zayis chutz l'zmano. and another half an olive's worth outside the right time. So you have outside the right place. That's the first statement. And then back to back, half an olive's worth outside the right time. Do those combine or not? Before we had outside the right time, outside the right place, outside the right time. Now we have outside the right place, but then you have outside the right time, outside the right time. So what's the halacha in that case? Tani bar kapara, pigel. He said it's pigel. Why? Ein chatzi zayis moro b'makom kazayis. That half an olive's worth of outside the right place is disregarded when you have a full olive's worth of outside the right time. So therefore, we go with the last two statements that combine for an olive's worth, because in the place of an olive's worth, half an olive's worth is nothing. That was Rav Dimi. Ki asa Ravin, when Ravin came, Amar chetzi zayis chutz l'zmano, v'chetzi zayis chutz l'zmano, v'chetzi zayis chutz l'mkomo. Now go the other way. You have half an olive's worth outside the right time, half an olive's worth outside the right time, and the third statement is half an olive outside the right place. What's in that case? Tani bar kapara, pigol bein chetzi zayis, mo b'makom kazayis. Same thing. When you have a kazayis of outside the right time, we don't care about the half a kazayis of outside the right place. In the place of one kazayis, half a kazayis is a 0. So Rav Ashi masni hachi. Rav Ashi taught it like this: Chatzi kazayis chutz l'zmano, the kazayis chatzi zayis chutz l'zmano, the kazayis chatzio chutz l'mkomo, the chetzi chutz l'zmano. Oh, so you have half of it outside the right time, half outside the right place, and half outside the right time. That's like we had earlier. Says the Gemara, Tani bar kapara, pigel, ein chatzi zayis, mo b'makom kazayis. Same thing. A full kazayis worth, when compared to half a kazayis worth, we disregard the half kazayis, and this takes priority, and therefore there will be karis. So, okay, now we know already, we're already basically experts in pigel, so we know that to get pigel, it has to be something which is consumed. You have to have in mind that the altar will consume it, or a human will consume it. So now, what about a dog? Well, what we've all been waiting for, I'm sure we're all thinking about this before bedtime. Yeah, well, what if a dog's going to eat it? What's then? Oh, so now we're going to answer our question. Amr biyanai, chi shev sheyochlu klavim lemachar. You know, I want the dogs to eat it tomorrow. So outside the right time, is that pigel? Says the Gemara, yes, it is pigel. How do I know? I guess we're bringing a proof that the word achila, eating, is used by dogs also. V'es izevel yochlu haklavim b'chelek Yisrael. So a pasuk from Malachim that talks about the dogs eating. So the word ochel and the word dogs are together. So you see, and pigel involves achila, eating. So we see that a dog can also consume, meaning halachically we view that as also an act of achila, of eating, and therefore that'll work. So now, what about maskeva Rabbi Ami elameata chishev shetochlu eish lemachar? I want to throw it into my badikas chametz fire tomorrow. That's also a consumption, no? The fire will consume it. So, what about that? Dichsiv tochlu. The pasuk says in Eov that tochaluhu eish lo nupach, that the fire is going to consume it. You're not going to be able to put it out. So, you see that fire also has the word ochel there, and therefore by pigel it should work also. So hachanami the pigel, it should also be pigel. So maybe yeah, who said not? V'chitema hachinami. Say okay, fine. If I have in mind that tomorrow I'm going to put the piece of meat or the korban into my barbecue, that should also get me pigel. Why not? Says the Gemara. An inference from our Mishnah will tell you not that way. The last part of our Mishnah said, you have in mind to have half a kazayis eaten by a human and half a kazayis to be eaten by the altar. Says the Mishnah, those don't combine. Eating of the altar and eating of a human don't combine to an eating. So, kosher, it's fine. It's not pigel. It's not the eating of a person. And the burning of the altar do not combine. So, so they don't combine. However, says the Gemara, okay, but if instead of saying it'll be burnt by the altar, you said it'll be eaten by the altar. So maybe that will get you pigot, only because you said it'll be burnt by the altar. Those don't combine. But eating of a human and eating of the altar would combine. So says the Gemara, yeah, that here you use the two different languages, the two different phraseologies, but if you would have used the same phraseology, so maybe it would be piggle. So, yeah. So, 1 second. Yeah. So it sounds like if you say consumed by the, burnt up on the altar, that's not good. But if you use the lashon of consuming, then it would be good. Then it would be good.
Changing the word.
Right. I guess what? I guess a fire could consume, no?
Yeah.
Yes, a fire could consume. Okay.
That would be the only way the altar could consume fire.
By burning, right? I guess you have to use that word, not burning, but eating, because piggle is bound to the word eating. That's interesting. Yeah. Right. Interesting. Let's say you want 2 people to eat 1 olive's worth. You have in mind tomorrow my 2 buddies will eat 1 olive's worth. Now each one can't eat a full olive's worth, right?
Right.
But you want a full olive's worth to be eaten. Right. So how do you view that? So mahu basar machshava azlinan, after your thought, the ika shiura, because you have a kazayis that's going to be consumed, or basar ochan azin, you go after the eaters, balekashira, they can't both possibly consume each a kazayis if all you have is 1 kazayis. So Amar Abai, Tashma, our Mishnah, le'achol kechatzizayis u'lehakter chatzizayis kosher. If you offer up, if you have in mind half a kazayis to be burnt and half a kazayis to be eaten, that's good. Why? She'ein achila v'aktar mitzarfin. Eating and burning do not combine. But halechol v'lechol, but if eating and eating, similar to dumi delechol lahaktir, it would be similar if you had a similar case with the right phraseology, which would mean just like the altar and a person are 2 different entities. If you would use the right words in a similar case of 2 people, it sounds like it would be mitzdarek shmamina. From the Mishnah, the fact that it only invalidates a person on the altar because you use the phraseology of burning and eating. But if you have all the factors being the same, so then they would combine. So 2 entities could combine, a person on the altar. So too, 2 people could combine also, and you go after the person's thought, not after the eaters. So the amount that the Torah considers eating is called kidei achilas pras, the amount you have half a loaf of bread. Everyone knows it by Pesach, but it's a misnomer. By Pesach, you have to eat your matzah between 2 and 9 minutes. You always have to eat things which to get you an after bracha between 2 and 9 minutes. Every Shabbos, when you have a piece of challah, you have to eat the requisite amount in a 2 to 9 minute time frame. That's considered an eating. For an after bracha, for a benching, that's so. To eat a kizayis more, because if you eat it longer than that, it's considered like 2 eatings, right? So if you have your cookie, which is enough of a measurement to get you a alamichya, but it takes you 35 minutes to eat this cookie, you don't make alamichya, because that's viewed like multiple eatings. So yeah. So now, okay. So Mahu, let's say you have in mind eat a kizayis for 45 minutes. So on the one hand, it's not viewed as an eating. On the other hand, it's a kizayis. So michte achilas prasmau la achilas gavoa midaminalei. Do we compare it to the eating of the altar? The consuming of the altar does not have this rule that the altar has to eat it between 2 and 9 minutes. So that's on the one hand. Or you compare it to the general eating of a person. Which way do you go? Same thing. Our Mishnah says if you want to eat half a kazayas and you want the altar to consume, to burn half a kazayas, it's kosher. Why? Because eating and burning don't combine, and therefore it's not pigul. That's only because you use the phraseology eating and lahaktir and burning. But halechol velechol mitzdarif. But eating and eating, if you use that phraseology, it would combine. Now, at the end of the day, you're going to put on the altar. The altar doesn't have that same limitation of kidei achilas pras of 2 to 9 minutes. And yet, what do you see? It would be pigul. So, if you just use that right phraseology, the haktara, the altar burning, is beyozer kidei achilas prasu. So what do you see? That you don't need to have this time limit. Says Gemara, no. Maybe the Mishnah's case is talking about a very big fire that actually will consume things very quickly. Dilma behes gadol, maybe like a matzah oven, right? Within 2 seconds, it's gone. So it's baked within a minute. So if it's talking about a big fire, then you can't prove from there that you need to have this. That you don't need to have this limitation of 2 to 9 minutes. Okay, I guess we'll finish the parak.